Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Detour by S.A. Bodeen, narrated by C.S.E. Cooney. For Laurie and Christy, who know all my secrets. 1. How often do you see a girl standing barefoot on a log by the side of the road, playing a flipping flute? Never. That's how often. Which is why my focus left the winding gravel for a split second too long. Which turned out to be way more than enough time to catch the tires of my red Audi convertible on the raised edge of the road, which I happened to be driving along much too fast. I never should have been on that God-forsaken stretch of gravel road on that sunny June Friday in the first place. The smart thing would have been to listen to my mom and stay home to finish my novel for the upcoming deadline. Instead, I had caved in to my pride. I'm a real writer, Mom, an author, for God's sake. This is what authors do. Authors go to writing retreats. I left out the last part of that sentence, the part that continued on in my head long after my mouth had closed. Authors go to writing retreats, so all the wannabes who pay dearly for the privilege can suck up to us, fantasizing they will be us one day. Several of my weekends that summer had been spent communing with the unpublished, the pre-published, the majority of whom are earnest, eager housewives well over 30, who firmly believe that they are meant to be the next Stephanie Meyer. I had smiled as I stood in my room packing for the weekend retreat. The weekend retreat that I was getting paid a ridiculous amount of money to attend. Because it was funny, really, that the joke was on all those middle-aged moms who didn't stand a chance. They were deluding themselves, thinking they were ever going to make money off their stupid stories and live the dream. The fame, the book tours, the fans. And I relished even, that I was 17, less than half the age of most of them, and had already accomplished what none of them probably ever would. Written a book. A trilogy, in fact, for which a major publisher in New York City had paid me a whopping mid-six figures. Those people were all fooling themselves. I mean, seriously, what did they expect from me? That I was going to recommend them to my agent? Give them a story idea? Tell them how to write the book that would change their lives? There was no magic formula, and even if there was, I certainly wasn't going to give it up. I was 17 years old. At 15, I'd gotten a 3-book deal, and at 16 I'd gone on a 12-city tour, chaperoned by my mom and my own publisher-appointed handler. The first 2 books of my YA series had been on the New York Times-bestseller list for 36 straight weeks and counting. And between them and my new movie deal, Steven Spielberg himself wanted to take me to dinner when I went to Hollywood in the fall. I was well on my way to having more than $1 million in the bank. Well, most of it was in a trust for when I was older, but I did get my hands on enough to write a check for the upcoming fall quarter at the University of Oregon, my dad's alma mater, where I would have a single room in the Global Scholars Hall, the most expensive dorm on campus. Pity the poor freshmen on financial aid who would be stuck in rooms barely larger than closets, eating crusted-over macaroni and cheese in the dining hall or boiling top ramen in the basements of their dorms, while I would be eating made-to-order sushi. My success only confirmed my feeling that if those so-called writers hadn't been able to do by 30 what I'd done by 16, then they didn't deserve to be published. In my humble opinion. My mom had also let me take out enough money to buy a few things, like my bright red Birkin bag, which happened to perfectly match my convertible with Oregon vanity plates that read Writer Girl. The very same car that lost a bit of stability when I hit the edge of the gravel road while going over 60, when I should have been going closer to 30. But it wasn't my fault that I was driving so fast. My unsafe rate of speed was a result of the fact that I was frustrated and very pissed off. The writing retreat was remote, back in the woods somewhere on the highway between my home in Bend and the city of Eugene. But near the end of the trip I hit a detour, and my car's state-of-the-art GPS kept telling me, in a lovely British accent that sounded almost like J.K. Rowling, to continue straight, while my gut screamed that a quick and tidy U-turn was the better option. So I'd been on the gravel road for about 6 miles, sun beaming down on my head, JK's "Continue straight" serenading me every now and then, when I finally shouted into the open air, "This sucks! I am seriously turning around." But then, rounding the next turn, the log came into view. The log with the girl standing on it. The girl's long, dark pigtails contrasted with the white of her Hello Kitty t-shirt. There were holes in the knees of her faded jeans. As she balanced, her bare feet molded around the moss-covered log. Her neatly bent arms held the flute at perfect attention for a conductor visible only to her. What struck me most was her expression. Her eyes were dark and narrowed, as if she was angry. I don't know if it was the sight of that furious flute-playing girl standing on a green log at the edge of the woods, or the fact that my writer's mind immediately began asking questions. Why is a girl playing the flute on that log? And why does she look mad? Whatever the cause, the moment of lost concentration led to the tires catching the side of the road. Without warning, the world churned. I screamed. The blue of the sky and the green of the treetops were juxtaposed in a rush of crunching metal. The side airbags punched out and kept me from getting crushed, but even as they cushioned my left side, the front airbag didn't deploy. My head smashed against the steering wheel, and all went dark. I came to with a start and a gasp. I wasn't sure how much time had gone by. The sun was still high in the sky. My teeth didn't feel fuzzy, so I hadn't been out that long. A few minutes, maybe? But everything was different. I hung upside down, hugged by the seatbelt, my white camisole and gray cashmere sweater bunched down around my bust. My position, along with the pervasive smell of gasoline, made the contents of my stomach, a nasty tuna sandwich on sourdough, begin to creep their way up my throat. J.K. Rowling sounded haggard yet also very determined as she persistently announced, "Recalculating route. Recalculating route." It felt as if someone had taken a hammer to my head. I started to raise my left hand, but cried out at the pain in my shoulder and realized I had better move more slowly. Or maybe not move at all. I blinked a few times. The light hurt my eyes, so I kept them shut. Recalculating route. Shut up. I wiggled my toes and kept going, twirling my ankles, bending knees. Everything seemed okay except for my left shoulder and my head. Once I got out of that car, I was going to be fine. A little banged up, maybe, but I could probably use the experience as inspiration for another book eventually. Or maybe, if I milked the drama, it could get covered as a news story. KGW in Portland? Then maybe even the Today Show. How many books would Sympathy sell? As soon as I was upright, I would get my publicist on it. And then I heard something besides J.K., and the ticking of the engine and the beating of my own heart. The sound was not coming from my car. The tone was too steady, high-pitched, fluttering. A soundtrack to a documentary about fairies and small woodland creatures. Was that a... Despite the pain in my head, I opened my eyes, wincing as I blinked. The girl with the flute stood there in the grass at the side of the road, looking down at me as she played her instrument. "Please," I said, "can you help me get out of here?" I tried to unbuckle my seatbelt, but my entire weight pushed down against it. I couldn't brace myself with my bad shoulder. "I need a hand here." The girl kept playing her flute. Are you kidding me? Then, still playing, she stepped closer to me. As she trilled, her lips pursed, fingers flying, she reached out a foot and put it through the open window, poking my bare stomach with her dirty toes. None too gently, I might add. What the hell? Was she brain damaged? Even though I was in pain and wanted to bawl, I realized Flute Girl might be the only thing that stood between my staying in that car forever or my getting help and making it home. So I swallowed the swelling animosity at her utter ignorance or absolute lack of compassion or whatever her issue was, forced half a smile onto my face, and injected an entire dose of false cheer into my voice. "Yeah, I'm kind of stuck here, driving too fast. Stupid, I know, but I'm pretty sure I'm hurt, so if you could..." At last, Flute Girl stopped playing. "Help me get..." My inane rambling tapered off. She slowly lowered her flute and squatted next to the car. We were nearly eye to eye, although I was still upside down and beginning to see spots. She set the flute down on the grass beside her, so gently, laying it there as if it were made of eggshells. The tenderness of her actions sent a wave of relief through me. I let out a breath. She's going to help me. Flute Girl's gaze rested on the flute, as if reluctant to leave the precious instrument for even a moment. She sighed, before turning her full attention to me. "That's it. I think if you help me unhook—" I trailed off. Because that was when I noticed something, a small detail that, despite my raging headache and the pain in my shoulder and the barely faded terror at rolling my freaking car, managed to cause a chill to run up my aching spine. I'd been wrong about her eyes. They weren't the eyes of someone who was angry or pissed off or slightly annoyed. Those eyes were just plain mean. Then Flute Girl smiled at me, revealing a gap between her two front teeth, a smile that would have been endearing on anyone else in the world. On anyone else, that smile would have been reassuring me, telling me, everything will be okay. You are safe. But on her, that smile was god-awful sinister. She picked up a stick about as thick as a good-sized snake and wielded it like a baseball bat, her fists tightening around it with none of the care she showered on her flute. And before my vision started swimming and I passed out, the last thing I saw was Flute Girl swinging that club straight at my head. 2. Olivia, Olivia. Mom? My mother was the only one who called me by my full name anymore. Well, she and our family dentist, who had known me since I was 2. My readers, the world, knew me as Livvy Flynn. And by world, I meant mainly the 32 countries where the foreign language rights for my series had been licensed. When the first few translations sold, I had posters made of the covers. But as the deals kept rolling in, I gave up. Instead, I had a juniper bookcase made for all the foreign editions. My talent and fame didn't exactly pour in much-needed money to my family. We were already pretty well off. I mean, my dad was an oral surgeon and my mom used to be a lawyer, so I would have gotten into the best dorm on their dime alone. But they supported me from the start. I started writing pretty seriously when I was 12, and when it was clear I had a knack for it, my parents encouraged me to keep at it. When I turned 14, Mom told me about a boot camp for novelists in Los Angeles. Although it sounded pretty cool, I hadn't written anything that long yet and wasn't sure I wanted to go. But Mom insisted. Of course she paid for it, as well as our rooms at the Beverly Hilton, so I didn't even know how expensive it was until I overheard a woman say she took money out of her kids' college fund to attend. Everyone else there was female and old. In fact, I was practically the only person under 30. Only a man would have felt more out of place. I wanted to sneak out, go find my mom, and have her take me to Disneyland or the beach or anywhere else for the next 3 days. But then, as we all broke up into critique groups and got to sharing our story ideas, I looked around at those housewives and waitresses and listened to them as they jabbered about finding each other and sharing the same dream. It took me about half a day to realize I didn't want to be like them. Half their lives over, still waiting and hoping for a far-fetched fantasy that was never going to happen. In that moment, I realized how much I did want to be a writer. But I didn't want it to be simply a fantasy, something I gushed about like all those women. I wanted it to be reality. I would make it a reality. So I decided right then and there not to wait until I was old. I would write a bestseller before I was out of high school. And I did. On the flight home from boot camp, I began The Call and the Coven, the first book in a series about twin teenage sisters born into an old family in Portland. Their mother died in childbirth, so they lived with their grandfather. One day, they discover a book in the attic, their mother trapped in the pages. The only way to release her is to find the entire set of books, each guarded by a witch, and bring them together. The series is about their journey to find the books, and of course they find love and encounter danger along the way as they struggle to release their mother. Olivia. That is definitely not my mom. The voice was high-pitched, The voice of a child. A girl. A vision of Flute Girl popped into my head, and I forced my eyes open, but everything was fuzzy, revealing only blurry whiteness. A ceiling? No longer hanging upside down in the ruins of my Audi, I lay on something soft. A bed? Had help come? Was I in a hospital? I shut my eyes. Thank God. My head was killing me. Advil, please. The ambulance crew, or whoever rescued me, would have found my purse. My driver's license bore my legal name, Olivia Louise Flynn. Of course the nurses would call me Olivia. My nurse was young, that's all. I opened my eyes again and tried to focus. On the 3 sides of the room visible from my vantage point, shelves covered the top half. A desk was pushed against one wall, while another had 2 folding chairs beside a table with several blue-topped, clear plastic tubs piled on top. What kind of hospital was this? The place looked more like somebody's scrapbook room. Hello? Talking made my head hurt. Hopefully I wouldn't have to speak again. I shut my eyes. Olivia? This voice was different from the other, deeper and older. Still feminine, though. My eyes opened to a woman's face peering down at me. Blonde, curly hair fell to her shoulders, and she was rather pretty, with a dimple in her chin, but a lot of wrinkles around her eyes. She was probably a cheerleader in high school before she went into nursing, before she got old, before she got all those frown lines. You're awake. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Shouldn't a medical professional be somewhat pleased that the victim of a rollover was awake and speaking and not deceased? My head hurts. She straightened up and put her hands on her hips. I suppose it does. Her outfit consisted of jeans and a faded aqua t-shirt emblazoned with a crossbow and the words, Mrs. Darrell Dixon. Her black bra peeked out of a small hole on the right side. A Walking Dead shirt. Odd attire for a nurse. My heart started to pound. She's not a nurse. I am not in a hospital. Please, I need to get to a hospital. Please? Mrs. Darrell Dixon scratched her head. Oh, I called 911. She held up the palm of her left hand, a gesture of apology. Sometimes it takes them a while to get out here. She set a hand on my left shoulder, my hurt shoulder, and pressed. I screamed at the instant shot of agony. Unable to help it, I burst into tears. She let go immediately. Oh, you are hurt. I wondered. Quite honestly, Mrs. Dixon sounded like she didn't give a crap whether I was hurt or not. Where the hell am I? Who is this witch? Please, I said through my tears, call my mom. My phone is in my purse. But she already knew that, didn't she? If she knew my name, then she had already been in my purse, had already gone through at least my wallet to see my driver's license. My heart pounded faster. It's okay, she said. Like I said, the ambulance should be here before too long. My eyes closed, shutting her out. For God's sake, shut up. But she kept talking. Suppose you aren't used to waiting for anything, are you, Olivia? You probably get whatever you want, exactly when you want it. She sighed. You have no idea, do you? What did she mean by that? Did she just assume that, due to my expensive car? That I probably had money? Or did she know who I was? Doubtful. Flute Girl was too young to read my books, probably too stupid as well, and Mrs. Dixon didn't strike me as much of a reader. Should I tell her who I am? Would it mean anything if they knew I was a world-famous author? Somehow I thought not. I pretended to be asleep or passed out or whatever kind of unconscious state was plausible for someone who had recently rolled her car and probably had a concussion. No, actually, I wasn't used to waiting, and yes, I usually did get what I wanted. And right now, Mrs. Darrell freaking Dixon, I want you to stop talking. And I want the ambulance to get here, and I want to get some pain medicine, and I want to get my shoulder fixed, and I want my mom, and I want to go home. The door creaked. I sucked in a breath and froze. Was she leaving? Mama. The voice. The one I'd first heard say my name. Flute Girl. Was Mrs. Dixon her mother? My heart sank as I tried to stay motionless. Is she dead? Flute Girl sounded a little too excited at the prospect of my checking out for good. Maybe that had been her intent when she came at me with that club. Did this woman, apparently her mother, know? Something poked me in my cheek. My eyes fluttered open. Flute Girl stood next to her mother, both of them looking down at me. Gathering every ounce of ornery still in my possession, I growled, "I'm not dead." Flute Girl reached out again to poke me. There was dirt under her fingernails. I reached over with my good hand and slapped hers away. The movement sent a fresh course of pain up my bad shoulder, yet I managed to growl, "Get your filthy hands off me." Both of them took a step back. Flute Girl crossed her arms as her mother simply frowned at me. "Well," said Mrs. Dixon, "maybe you need some time by yourself until you can figure out how to apologize to my daughter." "Apologize?" I nearly spit out the word. "Are you for real? After what she did? She hit me with a stick." Mrs. Dixon looked down at Flute Girl, who shrugged half-heartedly with one shoulder, then turned her gaze to me. Her eyes narrowed. "What my daughter did was come and get me and tell me there was an accident. Then we both got you out of the wreck and brought you here. Do you know how hard that was?" "You didn't have to do that." My face burned as I cried and shouted, which sent fissures of pain out from my shoulder, but I couldn't make myself stop. "All you had to do was call 911. And it dawned on me that for whatever reason, she hadn't called them. Not at all. "Just give me my phone. Let me call myself." The yelling killed my head, and I had to shut my eyes against the tears pouring out. My pounding heart seriously made my brain hurt. Just breathe. The woman's voice droned on, berating me. "Are you this ungrateful to everyone? Or just people who pull you out of cars and bring you into their homes?" Breathe. I scrunched my eyes shut tighter against the swelling pain and frustration and anger. Stay rational. This woman is crazy, and you have to stay calm. I opened my eyes back up and tried to smile as I sucked up to her. "Thank you so much for that. But I really think I should let you all get back to what you were doing before I came along. You have been so kind." I almost choked on those words, but I kept going, hoping it would help. "I'm sure you'll be happy to get me out of here and on my way, so maybe you could try 911 one more time?" And then, the addition of the one thing that most certainly would seal my fate. "I'd be happy to pay you for your trouble." Which it did. Seal my fate, that is, because Mrs. Dixon's face clouded over, a sudden thunderstorm on a previously partly sunny day. She grabbed the arm of Flute Girl and whipped around to the door. Desperation choked me as I cried, "Wait! Where are you going?" Flute Girl went through the door, and the woman turned back around to face me, glowering. "You think you can buy anything, don't you? Well, you can't buy me." And she left, slamming the door behind her. "And no one is coming for you." There was a very distinctive click. Did she lock me in? Holy crap, she locked me in! I yelled, "You can't do this!" I rolled onto my good side, curled up my legs, and dropped them over the side of the bed. I used my momentum to sit up. Ah! The swift stab of pain in my shoulder sent a flurry of white snow across my vision. My balance wavered. I dropped my head and took a deep breath. As my gaze eventually cleared, I found myself staring down at my feet on the green indoor-outdoor carpeting that covered the floor. My bare feet? Where were my shoes? I glanced at my right wrist. My medic alert bracelet and gold and silver Rolex were still there. My clothes as well, black leggings, camisole, sweater. But my shoes, my $300 black Italian leather flats, were missing. All the more reason to find out what the hell was going on. I counted to 3 and stood up. The white snow returned, but this time as a blizzard that refused to clear. Before I could sit back down on the bed, I promptly fainted. 3. My dreams were of McGrath's Fish House, a restaurant in Bend, where we went nearly every Sunday after church. For an appetizer, my dad always ordered the bruschetta topped with a tapenade and tomatoes and shrimp and a balsamic vinegar reduction glaze. He reeked of garlic for days afterward. The stench seeped out of his pores. Once, when his breath sang of garlic, my dad had tried to kiss my mom, but she playfully fended him off. I tried that appetizer one time, but the taste of garlic lingered in my mouth the rest of the day, making me put my hand in front of my mouth in case anyone got near enough to smell my breath. I didn't exactly have to worry about someone trying to kiss me. Well, at the moment, anyway, because I knew exactly who I wanted to kiss. My boyfriend, Rory, lived in Illinois, half a continent away. We didn't get the chance to see each other much. Actually, we had never even met in person, but he promised to meet me when my November book tour stopped in Chicago. Before Rory, I didn't have a lot of friends my age. Actually, make that no friends. I started writing my series the summer before freshman year of high school. Because I was so immersed in it, we decided as a family that homeschooling would make much more sense than traditional school. So I signed up for an online charter, and Mom resigned from her law firm to stay home with me. I knew how much of a sacrifice that was for her because she was the sole minority partner. The birth mother was an unknown Vietnamese girl, birth father an unknown GI with some black heritage. Luckily, in the waning days of the Vietnam War, some kind-hearted soul had stuck her on a plane evacuating orphans to the U.S., where she'd been adopted by a wonderful family. So Mom grew up in Portland, went to Lewis and Clark Law School, and worked hard to make partner in a Bend law firm made up of white guys. She assured me nothing would make her more fulfilled than staying home with me. I felt guilty about it at first, but soon it was clear how much more relaxed she was when she didn't have to go to work all the time. And it was all worth it because shortly after that came my book deal, and that was that. School for 2 hours in the morning, writing the rest of the day. After my first book tour when I was 16, Rory sent a message to my Facebook fan page introducing himself. He said he'd been at one of my appearances but was too embarrassed to meet me, so he had his mother get his book signed for him. His picture was nice. He had short dark hair and blue eyes, and a charming smile with dimples. I wrote back, telling him I remembered signing the name Rory. That was a lie. I didn't remember at all, but I didn't want to make him feel bad. Actually, more than that, I wanted to say something that would make him feel good, would maybe make him want to write back, which he did. He was the first boy my age I'd ever corresponded with. We discovered we had so many things in common. He loved Edgar Allan Poe as much as I did. I told him about the huge poster I had of Poe up in my room, and he had the same one. And we were both deathly allergic to bee stings. He wore a medic alert bracelet, too. After a month, we started talking on the phone. Secretly, of course, because I didn't think my parents would approve of me spending so much time with a boy they had never met. And only on Sunday nights, because he had 6 AP courses and had to get a 4.0 if he stood any chance of getting a scholarship, so we spent almost every waking moment studying. I wanted to tell him that I could pay for his college so he wouldn't have to study so hard and could spend more time talking to me. But I wasn't sure how he'd take that. As if my parents would even have let me. And then we began to Skype. Well, sort of, because the camera was broken on his laptop and he couldn't afford to get it fixed. So I couldn't see him, but he could see me. He was the first person who ever told me I was beautiful. I wasn't beautiful, I knew that. But my skin was a nice mix of mom and pasty white dad, and my hair was good, finally. My nose wasn't too big, and my eyes were a lovely brown, and my teeth were white and even. I wished I looked more like my mom, but my lips were kind of thin like my dad's, and I knew that even on a great day, I wouldn't pass much beyond kind of pretty. But when Rory told me that I was beautiful, my heart pounded, and I blushed. And I would make sure that when we did meet, and we did get a chance to kiss for the first time, I would not eat any garlic beforehand. Garlic? Why was I dreaming about garlic? I opened my eyes. Flute Girl knelt next to me on the floor, orange stains on her chin, breathing garlic breath all over me. I started to sit up, and the pain in my shoulder made me freeze and fall back onto the floor with a groan. I lay there and tried not to focus on the throbbing. She scooted back, not taking her eyes off me as she called out, "Mama! Olivia is awake. I wanted so badly to reach up and smack my name off her lips, tell her never to...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?